My name is Volker Kruger from Velden-Duffey Attorneys. When can I, as the purchaser, take occupation of the property? Who has to evict a tenant of the property? I think the answer to that question is that it depends on the wording of the relevant clause in the agreement of sale. If the agreement of sale, for example, stipulates that the purchaser can take occupation of the property on the 1st of June without saying anything else and without there being any other relevant clauses in the agreement, then I think the seller could probably successfully argue that it is the obligation of the purchaser, the problem of the purchaser, to evict that tenant and even go to court at the cost of the purchaser to have that tenant removed. On the other hand, if, for example, the contract of sale stipulates that vacant occupation of the property will be given to the purchaser on the 1st of June, then I believe that the purchaser could successfully argue that the seller must then evict any tenant or other occupier on the property at his cost, so that the tenant can then indeed, that the purchaser can then indeed move in and get vacant occupation of the property as promised in the contract of sale. So I think the message there for anyone drafting a contract of sale is to specifically discuss that issue with the parties and make sure that there's agreement on the date of occupation. Obviously, it might be before registration or it might be on registration, so that needs to be sorted as well. If the purchaser moves in before registration, then obviously you would also have to cater for occupational rental being payable to the seller. And then also, I think it's important to deal with the occupier, if there is one in the property, and stipulate whose obligation it is to evict that occupier should he refuse to move. Of course, in many cases, if there's a contract of lease and there's a tenant and the purchaser buys the property as an investment, he would be happy to just carry on with the contract of lease with the tenant, and the contract of lease would then be ceded from the seller to the purchaser together with the transfer of the property. So that might also be the scenario. So once again, I think it's important to deal with those issues specifically in the agreement and in the negotiations.